smart, and she's a lot stronger physically than you think she is.
Clark right at the cup, and she gets the bucket.
Great pass.
And the find there from Clark.
What we talked about with pressure, breathe, right? Be positive. Appreciate the opportunities.
Picture this, it's halftime and Caitlin Clark's on fire, but then the third quarter hits and suddenly it's like she's playing a different game. What changed? Caitlin Clark just dropped 25 points, 8 assists, and 8 rebounds. Sounds like another day at the office for the rookie sensation, right? Wrong. Here's the kicker, 7 turnovers that turned her stellar night into a nightmare. You might be wondering, what's the big deal? Well, this wasn't just any game. The Indiana Fever and Minnesota Lynx were battling it out for playoff positioning. Every possession counted, and Clark's mistakes cost her team big time. But wait, there's more. The real story? It's what happened in the third quarter. Something changed, and Clark's game fell apart. Was it just bad luck, or did the Lynx have an ace up their sleeve? Stick around because we're about to break down how one quarter turned this game on its head. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us.
Run that. I think her ability to lead this team as a rookie, she's really starting to step into that role, and I think that's exciting to see as well.
Underway here in the Iowa Capitol. Caitlin Clark quickly getting a look and knocking down the first 3 she's.
So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. The game was a tale of 2 halves, but the real story lies in what happened before the break. How did Clark go from unstoppable force to vulnerable rookie in just 10 minutes? Let's rewind to the first half, where Caitlin Clark was putting on a show. 25 points, 8 assists, and 8 rebounds. The rookie sensation was living up to the hype, and then some. She was weaving through defenders, sinking shots from downtown, and making plays that had fans on their feet. It was vintage Clark, the kind of performance that made her a household name. But here's the thing, while Clark was lighting up the scoreboard, the Indiana Fever were quietly building their own momentum. They were dominating in the paint, racking up 26 points close to the basket. The Lynx's defense, it was looking about as solid as a screen door on a submarine. You might be wondering, how bad could it be? Well, let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're Cheryl Reeve, head coach of the Lynx, watching your team get pushed around in their own house. The Fever were treating the paint like their personal playground, and Reeve's squad was just along for the ride. At halftime, the mood in the Lynx locker room was tenser than a high-wire act. They'd given up 50 points, and their defense looked shakier than a Jenga tower in an earthquake. Reeve knew something had to change, and fast, but what could she possibly say to turn this ship around? How do you go from being a punching bag to a powerhouse in just a few minutes of locker room talk? This is where Reeve's coaching chops really came into play. She didn't just give a pep talk, she laid down the law. Word is, she emphasized physical toughness and commitment to the game plan. It wasn't about fancy strategies or complex plays. It was about grit, determination, and straight up refusing to back down. Now, you might think, sure, that sounds great, but how much can a halftime speech really change? Well, stick around, because what happened next is gonna blow your mind. As the teams headed back onto the court, something had shifted. The Lynx players had a glint in their eyes, a newfound determination. But Clark and the Fever, they had no idea what was about to hit them. Remember those 26 paint points the Fever scored in the first half? That was about to become a distant memory. Reeve had cooked up a defensive plan that was going to turn the Fever's offense into a deep freeze. Remember that unstoppable rookie? Well, the next 12 minutes turned her into a deer in headlights. What could possibly make a rising star like Clark look ordinary? It's time to talk about the quarter that flipped this game on its head.
Ability to influence your offense, right? When you think about different players, you think about, oh, they can really score the ball, they can really push the ball in transition.
And I remember sitting in my bed and I'm like sweating. I'm like, oh, this is so bad. But I really loved the idea of being close to home.
As the third quarter kicked off, something in the air had changed. The Lynx stormed onto the court with a fire in their eyes that spelled trouble for the Fever. Cheryl Reeve had clearly lit a fire under her team during halftime, and they were about to show everyone why she's considered one of the best coaches in the game. The Lynx didn't just outscore the Fever in the third quarter, they dominated them. We're talking about a 17-point difference that left fans and commentators alike scratching their heads. How did they pull off such a dramatic turnaround? It all came down to defense. Reeve's halftime adjustments were nothing short of genius. She didn't just tweak her team's strategy, she completely overhauled it. The Lynx came out with a defensive intensity that caught the Fever off guard. Suddenly, those easy paint points that Indiana had been racking up in the first half, they vanished. Let's break it down. In the first half, the Fever had scored a whopping 26 points in the paint. It was like they had a VIP pass to the basket. But in the second half, the Lynx slammed that door shut, allowing just 8 points in the paint. That's not just good defense, that's a complete lockdown. Reeve's words after the game say it all. We really just want to make sure that there's no slippage, that we stay true to what we have gotten, what has gotten us this far. Translation, the Lynx rediscovered their defensive identity, and it paid off big time. But what about Clark? The rookie sensation who had been lighting up the scoreboard suddenly found herself struggling. The Lynx defense swarmed her, forcing turnovers and disrupting her rhythm. Those 7 turnovers we mentioned earlier, most of them came during this brutal third quarter. It wasn't just about shutting down Clark though. The Lynx showed that team basketball Clark's individual brilliance any day. While Clark was trying to find her footing, the Lynx were moving the ball, finding open shots, and playing like a well-oiled machine. Take Bridget Carlton, for example. She stepped up big time, hitting consecutive three-pointers that helped blow the game wide open. It wasn't just one player carrying the team, it was a collective effort that overwhelmed the Fever. This quarter wasn't just a turning point in the game, it was a masterclass in adaptability. The Lynx showed that they could change their game plan on the fly and execute it to perfection. They proved that defense isn't just about stopping the other team, it's about creating opportunities for yourself.
Not only is she a phenomenal passer, but obviously we know her scoring ability from the perimeter.
I didn't even really know about it because my parents were like, this is not the stuff a 7th grader should be thinking about.
And let's not forget the mental aspect of the game. As the Lynx's lead grew, you could see the confidence draining from the Fever. Every missed shot, every turnover seemed to weigh heavier and heavier. It's a stark reminder of how quickly momentum can shift in basketball, and how crucial it is to stay mentally tough when things aren't going your way. So what does this mean for Clark and the Fever? It's a harsh lesson, but an important one. In the WNBA, you can't rely on individual talent alone. The best teams can adapt, overcome, and find ways to win even when their star players are struggling. Think Clark's story ends here. You're in for a surprise that'll change how you see basketball stardom. The final score might have been 90-83 in favor of the Lynx, but the real story is what happens next. Let's talk about those standings. Despite the loss, the Fever are still clinging to that 6th playoff spot. It's a testament to their resilience and Clark's impact on the team. But here's where it gets interesting. The Lynx, they've shot up to 2nd place. That's not just a win, it's a statement. So what's the secret sauce behind the Lynx's rise? It's all about that team-first mentality and their ability to adapt on the fly.
Clark has led all rookies in points and assists per game, along with 3-pointers made. Of course, it's been far from a perfect start.
It's also been productive. Today, Clark was named the WNBA's Rookie of the Month for May.
In her first month in the WNBA, Iowa native Caitlin has been named the league's Rookie of the Month.
Remember how they flipped the script in the third quarter? That wasn't just luck. It was a well-oiled machine kicking into high gear. Bridget Carlton, one of the Lynx's key players, put it perfectly. It's impossible to guard all 5 people at your hardest at all time. This isn't just about having one superstar. It's about having a team full of players ready to step up when it matters most. Now, let's talk about Clark. Sure, she had a rough third quarter, but here's the thing. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. This game, it's a goldmine of lessons for the rookie sensation. It's one thing to dominate in college, but the WNBA is a whole different ballgame. Clark's learning firsthand that individual brilliance needs to mesh with team dynamics. But don't write her off just yet. The greats don't just coast on talent, they learn, adapt, and come back stronger. Clark's got the skills, no doubt about it. Now it's about fine-tuning her game, reading defenses better, and finding that sweet spot between taking over and elevating her teammates. And let's not forget, Clark still put up 25 points, 8 assists, and 8 rebounds. On most nights, that's headline material. It just goes to show how high the bar is set for her.
When you talk about greats in this game, you know, the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants and the Steph Currys, like they are putting her in that category, the Diana Taurasi's.
It's a lot of pressure having to choose and decide where you're going to spend 4 years of your life.
The expectations are sky high, but that's the price of being a potential game changer in the league. This game wasn't just about Clark though, it was a masterclass in the unpredictable nature of basketball. One minute you're on top of the world, the next you're scrambling to stay afloat. It's a reminder that resilience isn't just a nice to have in this sport, it's a must have. For the Lynx, this win is more than just 2 points in the standings. It's proof that they can hang with the best, even when the odds are stacked against them. They were down at halftime, facing a red-hot rookie, and they still managed to turn it all around. That's the kind of performance that builds championship DNA. As for the Fever, this loss stings, but it's far from a knockout blow. They're still in the playoff hunt, and now they've got a blueprint for what needs improving. It's one thing to rely on Clark's brilliance, but as this game showed, you need a complete team effort to succeed in this league. So what's next for Clark and the Fever? That's the million-dollar question. Will they use this as fuel to come back stronger, or will it shake their confidence? One thing's for sure, all eyes will be on them in their next game.
She's the only rookie in WNBA history with a triple-double and now has 2 in her debut campaign.
That's almost 45 points per game and the most by any player ever. She's on pace to generate the most points in a season in WNBA history.
This is the beauty of the WNBA. Every game is a story, every quarter a potential turning point. Just when you think you've got it figured out, the script flips, and you're left wondering what could possibly happen next. So what's the big takeaway from this game? It's not just about one star player, it's about a team that can adapt and overcome. The Lynx showed us that smart coaching and deep talent can turn the tables on even the hottest rookie. But don't count Clark out just yet. This game's a learning experience, not a career ender. Remember, even the greats have off nights. The real test? How she bounces back. Here's something to chew on. How will this game shape Clark's future? Will it light a fire under her, pushing her to new heights? And what about the WNBA? Could this be the start of a new era where team played Clark's individual stardom? One thing's for sure, the WNBA's never been more exciting. Keep your eyes on Clark and the Fever. This story's far from over.